Well, we'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Right now, I've got Dave on the call with me. And Dave, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell a little bit about who you are, where you come from, and what your background is.
All right. I'm Dave Butler. I was the former assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at the University of Oregon. I was there for the last 5 years. And then before that, I was at Cal State Fullerton and Long Beach State. So I've been doing this almost 10 years. And now I'm still living in Eugene. I have a 1-year-old. So the reason that I stopped coaching was because he was born, and recruiting takes so much time away from family. And I did it for so long that I was ready to kind of go the next phase of fatherhood. So right now I'm a stay-at-home dad. So
well, congratulations on the little one. That's exciting for you and for your family. So to get started, we just kind of wanted to use a little bit of your expertise. And, you've been in the coaching world for a long time, and you've seen a lot of things, and, have navigated the process. So really excited to have the opportunity to share your knowledge with our athletes. So to kind of get started, I wanted to see, what are some intangibles that you feel college coaches are looking for in a PSA?
The obvious size and athletic ability is always the first thing that pops out to you, because you can kind of see that right away. And then I look at movement. So that kind of goes along with athletic ability. If they're, smooth movers, or if they're kind of still developing in their bodies, you can kind of tell those things. Skills, obviously. If you're a highly skilled player, I'm gonna probably look at you a little longer. If you're raw, then I'm really gonna do a lot of research and really kind of see how you're developing throughout your time as a club player. But I'll always make that note that, raw, come back next tournament, see how they're developing nicely, come back, see how they're doing. So you kind of follow like a raw ability.
So the progression of an athlete that you see from tournament to tournament, that's exactly something that you guys are definitely kind of taking notes on and seeing on your end.
Exactly. So I'd say, well, when I was at Oregon, we always pride ourselves as we're really good teachers. So we loved raw athletes because they haven't really gotten like into bad habits really yet.
Yeah.
So we always thought that, we bring in someone that's touching 10-5. They might not have a lot of skills yet, but I can teach that kid. I can't teach them to jump 10-5 or be however tall, but I can teach them how to, do these skills. So those things, their attitude and demeanor with teammates, coaches, or even refs. It's funny, I just came to Nashville last weekend to kind of see the club. So I went to one game, and I went to watch Abby's 18s team, and the other team had a kid that she didn't like the call.
Oh no.
Kind of had this huffy, kind of like pouting little tantrum that she had. And then sure enough, like the next 5 points, she got blocked. She made a couple of errors. Like, how do you react to that is always something that I look at. And I always say, like, I don't want you to kind of be involved with the refs or the line judges. Like, that's the coach's job.
Yeah.
Like, you worry about doing your job on the court and let the coaches kind of deal with the refs. So then, how do you communicate with your teammates and your coaches? Do you make your teammates better? Are you one of those players that's kind of like just kind of does their own thing? Or are you bringing everyone together? Are you enhancing? Are you making the next ball better if there's an error, or not an error, but if there's a bad play? Are you helping making that play better? And then I think a big one is how you deal with adversity. So you have that bad call, how are you going to deal with it? Or you're struggling, you're just not having a good game. Are you still trying to make your teammates better, or are you kind of thinking about myself, or am I being selfish?
I love that you touched on that. That's something that we're kind of working a little bit right now with the 16 Ren team. So I'm gonna call my girls out a little bit. And just from the standpoint of moving on, and if you have a mistake, volleyball is a game of errors, and how do we move on from that? How do we not carry it into the next point? So I love hearing that is something that coaches are really kind of looking at the next level at.
Yeah, if you're a hitter and you take 10 swings and you get 3 kills and 1 error, you're hitting 200, which is not bad.
Yeah.
If you get 3 with no errors, you're hitting 300, you're going to be an All-American. So
Yeah.
it's like, that means that 7 times you didn't score.
Yep.
So it's like, it's a game of low percentages. So
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, if you can, you only need to deliver 30% of the time of scoring. So it's kind of like dealing with adversity is a large part of the game.
One thing I did want to ask, because I feel like we've put a big emphasis on this year, and Aaron West has built a prime program, which is injury prevention. But then we've also been able to build on that a little bit more this year and add in the college prep with some of our older age groups. Is that something that you guys, at the collegiate level, look at, emphasize, is it a good idea for athletes to, start on a strength and conditioning program when they're at the club level? Just kind of wanted to see your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's kind of going into how you're preparing for the next level, is how you're taking care of your body. And that's injury prevention and recovery. And then even just how you're fueling your body and how you're hydrating your body. Like, those are all things that the next level are really emphasized, especially at big programs like I was at. You have a nutritionist, and you have your strength and conditioning, and you have it's all these different resources that are helping you try to kind of be the best version of you as the athlete, as well as, all the other parts. But specifically for volleyball, you have those things. So if you already know you're lifting and you know how to properly do it mechanics wise, then you're going to be ahead of the game. So when you first get in, you're not just kind of going through learning how to lift. You're actually starting to build muscle, because you already know how to do these mechanics properly, so you're not risking yourself for injury.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen, with our athletes that have started, in our college prep program, who have gone off, just the physical difference of them coming back, but it does look like they have built a good base, prior to going off to college. So I feel like we've gotten some really good feedback. One thing that I wanted to kind of go into next, and you've already kind of touched on it, just with the red flags, and, what are some big major, red flags that either you've seen, throughout your years of recruiting, or is there anything that, just kind of you're out there and it takes a kid off your list almost immediately?
Yeah, so the bad body language is big for me and big for our program, because we really emphasize culture as being something that's really important. So if you're not a team player, then, it's not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
You're going to be just not going to get along with the coaches or the players. You're going to kind of be like an outcast, and you're going to kind of eliminate yourself. So it's just, we already know that. So if we have that on the list, then it's just going to be an automatic thumbs down. I say thumbs down because I've been working on UA forever. So you put a thumbs down, the kid goes away on your list. So
Yep.
Like throwing fits to the reps, like that drives me bonkers, because it's so unnecessary, and it doesn't do anything for you, and it normally takes away from the team. With your attitude, if you get subbed out, are you going to just pout at the end of the bench, or are you going to be cheering for your team and really try to, like I said before, make your team better? The person that came in for you is trying to get their opportunity, but they're also trying to help you and help the team, win or do better. So are you going to help them, or are you just going to kind of feel sorry for yourself on the side? And that's kind of a big one, because that goes with the bad body language and just kind of being selfish and into your own whatever. You need to be a part of it. It's a team sport. If you don't like to be a part of a team and it's about you, then golf is probably a better sport for you, or tennis, or something where it's just you.
Yeah.
But if you're in a team sport, then it's about the team. It's not about you anymore.
Yes. And it's hard, I tell my kids sometimes, I understand that it's hard when you get subbed out, but at the same time, you're right. This is a team sport, and the team has got to be above. And if the coach makes a decision that, you're going to be best for the team on the bench that day, be the best bench player that, the team has seen that day, or that weekend.
Yeah. And then how often they look at their parents during matches. So if
that's
they're,
one that bothers me too.
yeah, if they're, they make an error or they're doing something and they look over the stands to see what their parents are telling them, well, what was your coach telling you?
Yeah.
Your parent may have played or done whatever, but that's not their role. Their role is to cheer you on and kind of be supportive of you, not to coach you during matches. So, or even like after a match, where are you going after a match? Are you hanging out with your team, or are you going straight to your parents to go complain or, kind of do whatever?
So coaches will linger a little bit sometimes. They're not even just necessarily watching the game. They're going to kind of watch maybe some of the before and after,
Yeah.
types of stuff.
Exactly. Yep. Because I want to know everything I can about this person. Because I'm trying to make a 4-year commitment with them that we're going to have a good relationship and I can coach you and you're going to fit in with our culture and all these things. So I need to know all these different things about you.
How big do you think, how big of an importance do you feel like the warm up is?
I mean, especially the next level, the warm up is large. I used to try to be the first person in the gym so I could go watch hitting lines, because I can tell a lot just in hitting lines right away if you're going to be the type of athlete that I can coach or that we're going to be interested in. So are you still putting on your stuff when everyone's doing their ball control, or are you one of the first ones out there trying to get stretched out and get ready to play? It's kind of like an attitude thing.
I think that's good. I'm going to kind of combine these next two questions. But I mean, one thing that I usually get from parents, because we try to encourage our athletes to really get in the driver's seat of the recruiting process. Did I freeze a little bit?
Yeah, but I can hear everything.
You can still go. Okay, all right. So we encourage our athletes to really get in the driver's seat of the recruiting process. So, and then the parents are usually come and ask, well, what do I do? And, what role should the parent play in recruiting? And then also to kind of segue with that, what are some red flags that you've seen with parents over the years, that they should also be aware of too?
I always tell the parents that, their role is to be their support system. You can help sort out their options with them, help provide questions that they should probably ask that, you'd like to have answers to, get them to college summer camps that the colleges are interested in them attending so they can kind of get to know the programs a little bit, help with highlight films. Highlight films is a big way to kind of get your name on a list, because I can tell in a highlight film if this is someone that I need to go watch or this is someone that's probably not going to be a good fit for our program. And then when you're on visits, getting to know the coaches like personally, trying to ask those important questions of how that the coaches are going to take care of your daughter when you send them away and you're not going to be there anymore. So what's the support system that they're going to have if they're homesick or they're struggling in school or whatever might come up. And then some of the red flags, helicopter parents, I mean, I feel like that's a no-brainer. If you're just constantly around them doing everything for them, it's like, well, going to college is kind of an independent experience. So if you're not used to that and your mom's doing everything for you, it's going to be a struggle for you.
I can tell you from my personal experience too, that's one of the things that I've seen, that it's, parents, you've got to make sure that you are preparing, as best as you can, your daughter to be, at least somewhat independent when they go off. Obviously they're still young and they're these kind of micro adults, but they've got to be able to navigate, some different things. They've got to be able to have conversations, with their coaches, and they've got to be able to have conversations with, their professors, and, they've got to be able to sometimes navigate, student accounts or financial aid. And so, if you can really empower them, to, start navigating those things early, they're going to be so much more successful, when they go off in the next level.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And then, I mean, every college coach has relationships with all these club recruiting coordinators or coaches, and they're going to ask them like, how are the parents? Are they are they parents that are constantly asking for meetings, or nothing's going to be good enough? Or are they letting their kid kind of fight their own battles? Like if they have questions of playing time or what they need to get better at, are they doing it for their kid, or are they letting their kid kind of have that conversation with the coaches on their own?
Yeah.
And then trying to coach their kid during games. Like I said, if the kid's looking off, are they the ones that are trying to tell them how to do whatever they're doing, or are they, which is kind of, it undermines the coaching staff, which if they do that at the club level, they're going to do it at every level. It's just kind of the way it is more often than not. And then, as a college recruiter, you're sitting in the stands, you're right behind the coaches. And so what are they talking about? Like, how are they interacting with each other? Are they complaining about the coaching? Are they complaining about other players or are they being supportive, which is what, we're looking for?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to kind of group these next two questions together. What are some ways that athletes can get a college coach's attention? And then once they've kind of got the attention and they're, building, how do they maintain that? What sets them apart from, other athletes, that the schools may be navigating through?
Yeah, I'd say writing the personalized emails. I used to get, I don't know, 50 emails a day probably, and some of them didn't have the right school on it. Some of them didn't have the right coach on it. So it's like, so this was just a blanket email that they kind of filled in and didn't kind of look over it. So I'd say, a personalized email that has a highlight is the first way to get on a list. Because like I said, with the highlights, I can tell right away through your highlights if you're the type of athlete that I'd like to look at some more and kind of see play. If not, then it just wouldn't be a fit anyway. But the highlight film is a really good way to just kind of get on a list. If you're just writing emails, and like I said, I get so many of those. What in the email is going to set you apart? Oh, I got a little highlight film. And then if you're putting your measurements, make sure they're accurate. I don't know how many times I got an email that the kid said she's like 6'2", touches 10'3", and she ended up being like 5'10", didn't even touch 10 feet. It's like, well, that was a waste of time, and that wasn't going to work out for you anyway. So like, what was the point of that? So if you're doing that stuff, make sure that what's saying is actually accurate, and then how to set yourself apart once you're on the phone. So yeah, you start the recruiting process. You start the conversations. Now, how are you communicating with your coaches, or I guess your future coaches? Are you getting back to them when they ask you something about school or whatever it is? You want to start building that relationship. So you're asking your initial calls, you're asking those difficult questions of, what do you see in me, or what are you looking for in this class, or those typical questions that you're asking every college coach. And then once you kind of start to narrow down your list, you really want to get to know them personally. Talk about family, talk about your likes, your dislikes. You really want to get to know them, because like I said, you're about to commit to a 4-year relationship. So if you don't get along or you don't mesh well, then it might not go well. Even if it's the dream school that you've just envisioned yourself at forever, it might not be a fit with that coaching staff or that school. So yeah, and then you have to, making sure you're a good fit at a program is big, because you see all these transfers in the portal now. So it's like, were they not doing their due diligence? Was something being hidden? Like what is the reason that, if you did all your research and you tried to develop those relationships, what is the reason that you're leaving? So you have to make a list for yourself too of, these are things that are really important to me when I'm looking at a school, whether it's playing time, how soon the playing time happens, even what you're studying. Do they have things that I'm interested in? Like there's so much that goes into it, and I feel like kids just feel so rushed because they want to make sure that they aren't missing out on something. So they're not doing all the due diligence they need to do.
I think making your future, a priority. One of the sayings that I like to use with our athletes, most of them are probably not gonna go into a profession, like us, where volleyball's paying the bills.
Yeah.
And, so they need to make that, the big priority, volleyball, yes, and it's exciting. And yes, we want you to have that opportunity, but at the same time, that volleyball is going to be part of a bigger picture of what's, really going to take place in your life. So you want to make sure that you're really, setting yourself up, on the academic side, for your future.